Are you familiar with the show My Strange Addictions? I'm sure you are. This show is fascinating to a lot of people because it exposes some of the most bizarre obsessions that people have, and how those obsessions came to be, and how it affects those around them. I'm sure that a lot of us who've seen the show are glad to not be addicted to doing things like eating plastic and drinking blood like other people on the show, but there are many other bizarre obsessions that you might be glad to not have in your life, and I'm gonna list them off today as we count down the top 10 strangest addictions that you'll be glad to not have. At number 10, drinking human blood. I remember there was a point when the Twilight Saga was really big and everyone was obsessed with vampires and whatnot, and that everyone was trying to be a vampire themselves. Including me. We don't need to talk about that. But I never thought anyone would take it as seriously as one woman who was featured on an episode of My Strange Addictions who is addicted to drinking human blood. This woman is so addicted to blood that she literally cannot go a day without consuming it, otherwise she starts to get really bad headaches and starts to feel really agitated and irritable. Like me without my morning coffee, but 10 times worse. The woman, Michelle, is a blood fiend and mostly survives off pig blood because human blood is a little harder to find. According to her, human blood is just a once-a-week treat. Her blood obsession is so bad, however, that over the last 10 years of being an incognito vampire, she's consumed enough blood to fill 23 bathtubs, drinking about 36 liters of pig blood every week. Now you're probably wondering how she chooses to consume this amount of blood. Is she growing fangs or no? Well, Michelle is kind of a culinary mastermind and she mixes blood into things that she's cooking. She said that she's mixed blood into her stir fries, soups, and she enjoys the occasional Bloody Mary with actual blood in it. Sounds interesting. Would you ever try that out? At number 9, hair pulling. Now this one isn't necessarily an addiction, it's actually a form of OCD, but people still find it to be quite strange. The quote-unquote addiction to pulling out your hair, or trichotillomania, is a form of obsessive-compulsive disorder that millions of people around the world suffer from, and it's the compulsion to, you guessed it, pull out your own hair, and often follicles, sometimes resulting in patches of baldness. This compulsion isn't just restricted to the person's head as some might think, because for many, wherever hair grows on your body is where you will pick and pull at. Many sufferers often feel intense anxiety until they are able to satiate their gnawing urge to pull or sometimes chew at their hair. I know that people who suffer from trichotillomania are often dissatisfied even when they finish pulling at their hair, which just makes their anxiety worse and continues the cycle. There's also a similar disorder called dermatillomania where people pick and pull at their skin that is also based on the same OCD and feelings of anxiety. These disorders can often cause the sufferer a lot of pain, so if you don't have these disorders, count yourself lucky. Now before we continue talking about the rest of these wild and strange addictions, I want to take a moment to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far. We really appreciate your support, so go ahead and smash that like button to send us some love. On number 8, eating dirt. Moving on from blood drinking and hair pulling, we have dirt eating. Yes, there have been people out there who have recorded and spoken out about their addiction to eating dirt. This addiction is formally referred to as geophagia, and it's more than just eating dirt. People who have geophagia often deliberately consume other earthy materials like clay, chalk, and other materials under this category. Geophagia actually has a pretty lengthy recorded history, and some records of this practice have even been dated all the way back to Roman times. The earliest evidence of geophagia has been discovered in the remains of the earliest humans in Africa, so we humans have been eating dirt for a lot longer than you might have thought. Though My Strange Addictions might make this obsession look super weird and taboo, there are still a number of people around the world who still practice this. Actress Shailene Woodley has said that she eats clay to detox, so technically she participates in geophagia as well. Many times people get into geophagia because they suffer from pica, which is an eating disorder where people compulsively eat non-food items. It is believed that pica can be brought on by severe iron deficiency, stress, mental illness, or even pregnancy. I can't say that eating things like clay, chalk, and dirt sounds pleasant, so I'm glad that I don't have this addiction. At number 7, eating soap. When you were a kid, did you ever hear your parents tell you that they would wash your mouth out with soap if you ever swore? Well, this individual from My Strange Addictions took that threat and ran with it because she's actually addicted to eating soap. A woman by the name of Tempest Henderson was on My Strange Addictions and opened up about her bizarre addiction to eating soap and laundry detergent. The 19-year-old apparently consumes up to 5 bars of soap a week, and this whole obsession started because she decided to taste some soap one day. Tempest said that one day she was doing laundry using powdered detergent and just decided to lick some of the powder. She said, quote, "I dabbed the powder onto my tongue and it tasted so sweet and salty. It just felt so right, I was hooked straight away, end quote. She even starts off her mornings with a little soapy pick-me-up in the shower, as she said, quote, "In the shower, I like to lather up a green bar of soap and lick the bubbles. And as the soap disintegrates, I pop a tiny amount of soap into my mouth and suck it. It is heavenly." Doctors have warned her that this addiction can become very dangerous to her health, but because she also suffers from pica, it makes it difficult to stop. At number 6, eating couch cushions. Imagine getting a nice new couch from the Brick or something, and you invite your friends over to enjoy that nice new plush sofa, and then someone starts eating it. Well, if you're friends with Adele Edwards, then that might happen to you because she's addicted to eating couch cushions. When Adele was on My Strange Addiction, she opened up about how she had been eating couches for 21 years and how she had consumed about 7 couches in 1 year. In the episode, she said, quote, "I unzip the cushions and snack on the foam inside. And once I start, I just can't stop. But now doctors have told me that if I carry on, my addiction will kill me," end quote. It's really hard for Adele to stop her addiction because she suffers from pica, and it's believed that this all started because of the stress that she was feeling around the time of her parents' divorce. Adele's addiction is very dangerous because she's experienced many blockages in her stomach and intestines in the past, because obviously you can't break down couch cushions in your body. She's tried so many ways to break her addiction, like therapy and hypnosis, and honestly, this just sounds like a nightmare addiction to have. At number 5, drinking urine. Do you guys have a favorite beverage, like coffee, a certain type of soda, or tea? Well, whatever it is, it probably isn't human urine, unless of course you have a strange addiction, like one woman named Carrie from My Strange Addictions. In one episode of the show, there was a woman who exposed her addiction to, you guessed it, drinking her own pee. She spoke out about her weird obsession, saying that she, quote, "likes warm pee," saying that she finds it oddly comforting. When she opened up about the first time she tried it and what she thought about the experience, she said, quote, "The first time I drank my urine, I didn't throw up, and it wasn't horrible, so I thought, you know what, I can do this," end quote. Since taking a liking to her own urine, Carrie has upped her usage of her pee from simply just consuming it to putting it in her eyes, rubbing it on her skin, and even brushing her teeth with it. But why does she do all of this, you ask? Well, Carrie claimed that it had been keeping her cancer at bay. She has been drinking 80 ounces of urine a day for 4 years before her episode aired because she believed that her urine had health benefits. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I don't think that's how it works, and it probably isn't very good for you either. At number 4, eating ashes. When someone close to you passes away, it's obviously very devastating, and people often wish that they could keep their loved one with them. Well, there's a person out there who really took that idea literally and found a way to keep their loved one very close to them after their passing. On an episode of My Strange Addiction, a woman named Carrie opened up about her addiction to eating her late husband's ashes, and I'm sure this is an addiction that you'd be glad that you don't have. Carrie said that this strange addiction came after she was handling her husband's ashes and some got on herself. She felt bad about just wiping them off of her, so she decided to lick it off, and that's when the addiction started. Cassie said that the taste of ashes is like rotten eggs and sandpaper, which is a flavor that she's, quote, grown to love. Now, I think this would be pretty obvious to you guys, but ashes are certainly not for eating. They can actually be very dangerous to consume because among the chemicals in the ashes is usually embalming fluid, which when ingested can cause psychosis. If you really want to eat something as dry as ashes, then just eat a well-done steak instead. At number 3, eating plastic. For a while now, people around the world have been trying to make an effort to use less plastic to save the environment, but instead of recycling it or finding other methods of disposal, one person has taken a very different method of getting rid of plastic, and that's by consuming it. On an episode of My Strange Addictions, a teenager named Kaylin opened up about her dangerous addiction to eating plastic. I mean, I'm sure that we've all found ourselves chewing on plastic straws or something at one point, but with Kaylin, she doesn't just stop at chewing, she fully eats it. In the episode, Kaylin said that up until that point in her life, she had consumed 12 remotes, 5,000 beads, 1,000 cocktail swords, 100 straws, 10 water bottles, 2 pacifiers, 3 CD cases, 50 coat hangers, and 25 plastic drink lids. With all that combined, it is estimated that by that point, Kaylin had eaten roughly 150 pounds of plastic. As for why she enjoys eating plastic, she said that it, quote, crunches and feels nice, and it's rough but at the same time has a smooth texture, end quote. At number 2, bee stings. Does anyone out there actually like bees? Well, I would assume you find them at least mildly appealing since you are watching Bumblebee, but the actual insect can be a little daunting. I can't say I'm the biggest fan of those honey machines because I think I'm allergic to them, but this next person from My Strange Addiction seems to like bees a little bit too much because they're addicted to stinging themselves with bees. This addict, a woman named Margaret, described how she purposely stings herself with bees at least 100 times per week, and she said that it's mostly for adult purposes, if you catch my drift there. Margaret has said that this addiction started after she started using bee stings to treat her arthritis, but since taking a liking to the sensation, she's also started using bee stings for other purposes and just for leisure as well. Margaret now stings herself at least 15 times per day, but doctors say that this much exposure to bee venom could actually trigger an allergic reaction to the bees, so that's definitely not good. And finally, at number 1, addicted to funerals. Now for one of the most bizarre addictions that I've heard of, funeral addiction. Most people don't like going to funerals. They're such sad occasions, and I would think that people would try to avoid them at all costs, but there's one person out there who actually likes funerals and goes to any one that they can find, even if they didn't know them personally. A man from Brazil spoke out about his addiction with funerals, saying that he's been to every funeral in his hometown for the last 20 years and even quit his job to be able to feed his addiction. He told sources that the first thing he does in the morning is check the radio for any death announcements, and then he plans his day accordingly so he can make it to their funeral. Apparently, he's become a town celebrity of sorts because everyone expects him to show up at these events now without fail. Now that is a very strange addiction. Now before I wrap things up for today, I want you guys to leave me a comment down below telling me what you think of these strange addictions that we talked about today, and maybe expose one of your own strange obsessions too. Don't be afraid to share with the group because I would love to know what your weird guilty pleasures are. Just don't be too weird about it. Anyways, that's all I've got for you guys today. I've been your host, Bria, and until next time, stay safe out there, make good choices, and I'll see you beautiful people in another video. Bye!